Check.
I needed to unmute my mic. I'm sorry. Can you hear me
That's it.
now?
I can hear you, but I'm not sure about the audience.
And let me know if I'm echoing or anything. I can,
You sound perfectly fine to me.
yeah, shuffle things about if I need to. I use the
Okay,
same. I
Gar.
use the MathPig method of production. So,
Oh, okay.
I'm on my Streamlab OBS. We're just using this as a video capture. This is like we're just using this as a studio in Streamyard.
Mm, yep.
Am I still muted?
Can you
Or is
hear me,
MathPig just
Matthew?
messing with me? I bet he's just
I
messing with me.
don't know. He's probably maybe.
Yeah, let me see.
Wow.
Yes, we're just using. Yes, I can hear us just fine, Math Pig. I'm not coming on camera tonight because my greasy hair, but I'm
That's
flipping you off.
okay. Right. Well, I mean, I can do it for you.
Yes, there you
There
go.
you go.
See,
There you go.
that's why I have a mark.
Yeah, I'm interpreter for the Bumblebee
Yeah,
tonight. So
this is the scene in Crocodile Dundee where he's like, "I don't need a gun. I got a
I
donk."
see you. I've seen you played Forky Spoony before.
Sporky Spoonie.
Knifey Spoony before. That was
Yes,
great. I loved that Simpsons episode. It was fantastic. Yeah.
absolutely.
You don't have a gun. No, I don't need a gun. I got a donk.
Yes. So, your conversation with Math Pig, did it change
Yeah,
you?
it was great. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Sorry, go ahead.
Did it change you though? Do you feel changed? A lot of people come and
Not
walk away
really.
from a Math Pig
I,
interview a changed human. Yeah,
yeah, I think I feel really good about it. Yeah, so I guess it did change my mental frame a little bit. So
that's good.
yeah, it was nice. You know, it was really good. Wow, I can't believe I just flipped your audience off. That's terrible. But no, I felt it's good to be yourself and have people sort of respond and react to it and stuff. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like you're putting on a mask for YouTube, I guess. But um, yeah, I wanna try and sort of connect with people, kind
You
of thing. So
you know something, Mark?
yeah,
I
yeah.
guarantee Gurr will not come in here with you and I in here. He can't.
Why?
He can't contend with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, yeah, that's good. I
Yeah.
do like her.
You can always tell when Gurrs tucks their tail to cover their genitals that they're being submissive.
Oh, okay.
I
I'll
didn't
have
know
to
if you
keep
knew
a
that
lookout
about
then.
Gurr.
I didn't know that about Gur, but it's
Yeah.
probably too much information. But now I know. I will definitely keep an eye on Gur's tail.
Yes.
100%. Yeah, just I'll be all over his tail. I got you. I got you.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I want to give a big shout out to Carol.
Mm.
Um, hello, and Mayor, of course, who's wonderful. And do come on if you want to. I don't
Yeah.
really want this to
You got,
be.
yeah, the link is pinned in
Yeah, please.
the top of the side chat there. Anybody wants to come in, Robbie, Maya, yeah. If you're yeah, this is an open panel.
Yeah.
It's not a one on one with Mark. Nitty, I think Nitty was here earlier. Nitty,
Yeah,
I'd love for you
Nitty.
to
Hey,
come
Nitty.
in. Nitty, I don't think you've ever been on my channel, so yeah. Leo, if Leo's out there, I don't know if Leo came back or not, but
I don't see him. And there's Ian. Hey, Ian. Ian's another person from Australia, so we sort of form a trinity of Australian atheists that hang out on Amy's channel. Um,
yes. Well, Amy was we like that was part of the reason why I set this to go live when I did because she was doing her street interview, street
yeah,
epistemology or whatever that she's doing. So did want to watch that. So I did pop over there
yeah,
and catch that. Hey, Minnow.
yeah. I was wanting to watch a little bit of it, but yeah, I was just going to save it till later and
Yeah.
check it out then.
And we got Ox,
Ox, yes. Hello, Ox.
Aaron Colson.
I joined him. We're talking about Gur's Tale. What a stream. Oh, yeah. Love you too, Ian. Big shout out to the Aussie atheists.
Yes. Aussie
What?
atheist. Do you know Mr. Bear?
Who?
Mr. Bear, he's a friend of mine.
No
He's
idea.
an Aussie
No idea.
with a channel of his own.
Oh, okay. I maybe I should meet some of these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nervardia. Have you ever met Nervardia?
Nope.
Um, who else do we know in Australia, Robbie? We used to have a big connection in Australia. Jin's little corner. We have lots of uh, skeptic community comrades.
Hmm.
I think Bugbot just showed up in the chat. If somebody wants to take a swat at him, all you gotta do is swat, and he dodged me though. Anyhow, yes, I got a little robot I keep in the chat. But Nervardia, her channel was a lot like mine, just kind of a variety
Yeah.
science channel.
And
Talks about a lot
sort
of
of
different
skepticism.
topics, and I do also
Sure.
do counter apologetics.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bear does he's a ex-Catholic, so he does counter apologetics to a lot of Catholic stuff. He's active on Twitter a lot too. Yeah, Nacha Witness, I think is Australian, but I don't know if Nacha's still around. I actually used to think that was really Nacha's voice. Nacha's going through a voice filter to make his voice sound really deep and low, and because he's an ex Jehovah's Witness, and
Oh, okay. So he's hiding from the
yeah, because they
Jehovah Witness.
and that's isn't that so gross that they come at you like that?
Yeah. Well, we've been having talks lately about what would we do if somebody in the atheist community turned into a theist kind of thing, and um, sort of people I was saying, well, it wouldn't. I think we should still, sort of support them in the community, and I don't
Yeah,
see why that would change my opinion of somebody. But we're talking about there are people out there who would completely sort of say, I can't talk to you anymore because you're not an atheist anymore. And I think that's wrong. I think that we hassle the theists for doing exactly that. Why would we do the same? I think that if somebody changed into a theist, we should just, accept them for what they've decided to do. But I don't
well,
know. What are your
and
thoughts?
Matt Powell, Big Bod Bad Mama did a little video featuring Matt Powell talking, accusing us of shunning ex-atheists. I've never shunned an ex-atheist. I've always wanted to
Right.
talk to them up to the
Yeah.
point to where they became toxic, which is what
Yeah. I
unfortunately
saw
what
that
happened with
video
Khalil
actually.
Allah. I
Yeah.
was trying to engage with formerly Justin, and then became
Mm.
Khalil Allah when he converted to Islam, and I tried to keep engaging with him until he became very, very toxic towards just the LGBTQ
Right.
community in general, and I couldn't interact with him
Right.
anymore. But
Yeah.
I don't shun anybody, but I'm not going to be abused by somebody or the community that they're
Oh,
that they're
absolutely.
uh, they're cultivating. I just can't do it. I don't care if they got good
Mm.
philosophy. If they're toxic people in general, I don't want anything to do with them. And
Mm.
that's what you see with. I mean, nothing's more toxic than shunning. You know, people can't control what they believe.
Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely more toxic behavior than shunning. I mean, sort of bullying and vilifying, I think, is more toxic than just
Yeah,
shunning
well, I
someone.
mean, then you get into like narcissistic behavior and stuff like that. But
Well, sure,
yeah, I was talking,
sure.
but that's not something that community engages in. I meant like a way a community can interact with somebody, because on a community level, you can't really do much. A community can bully somebody, but
Yeah.
I mean, shunning is really in its way, it is bullying, making just
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the whole idea of it is kind of antithetical to how we evolved. Because if you were cast out of society back in, sort of Pleistocene or whatever, or
hmm
you were basically as good as dead. Like you
unless
were.
you were like an exceptional survivor.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Even then, all you have to do is just get sort of, a broken leg and you're dead. That's it.
Oh yeah, your life
And
expectancy back then was in a
yeah.
society you had a longer life expectancy for sure.
Well, they did find some early hominid bones with sort of a broken bone that had reset, which
hmm
means that I think it was actually, was it a Neanderthal maybe? But I can't remember the actual species of it. But they knew that that um, hominid had been cared for
Yeah.
to take
What's her
care of
name?
their dinosaur.
She. I think she
Yeah,
was. Was she Homo? Was she a Neanderthal? I know what you're talking
I
about because
can't
she was
remember.
like was in a condition where she wouldn't have been able to get up and walk around and stuff,
Right, right.
but like she was like taken care of, and
Yeah.
I remember Trey the Explainer talked about it because her teeth were sort of rotten, like she'd been eating a lot of sweets and stuff, like somebody was
Mm,
spoiling her with sweets.
mm.
But yeah, it's a altruism like that is interesting, and animals that I mean it's a give and take relationship with species, right? Like so you're in a social group and you got the chance for somebody to take care of you and feed you when you're down and stuff like that. But you ultimately have to share the spoils of your work, right? You have to share with that
Right.
society that you're part of.
Well,
And
I think. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh, and I'm gonna say on the basic survival of an individual level, it's fine to be solitary. You know, if you can manage to uh, collect enough calories for yourself to keep going and manage to
Yeah.
survive, then you're fine. I mean, obviously, you're not contributing to the population at that point, though. So you're basically, I mean, you're a what an evolutionary dead end.
Essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was sort of having this conversation in one of my debates. Like, I think there's sort of two things at play. There's that empathy of, I would feel bad if that happened to me. Keeping, you taking care of somebody, so you've got a negative drain on resources. But that whole idea of, well, if it was me, I would feel bad, so I'm going to do this, and that reciprocity, which is sort of your sense of fairness, like. Um,
Yeah.
that
Just
that
world or
you
whatever. Yeah.
right, but the whole idea of, if I take care of them, they will take care of me. I will get an equal exchange kind of thing. I will be treated the same, and we can kind of track that, and we can scan using an MRI and track the neural pathways that do that. It's kind of fascinating.
Yes. Oh
Um,
my gosh, I've been looking so much into this neurology since I started following the because I mean it just like clicked with me about fungus mycelia being like our neural network and just thinking about how everything in the world that interacts is all connected by neurons. You know, your whole body is neurons, and it's not you're not just you. You're a community. You don't have just your cells in your body. There's a whole community of organisms that make up Mark. Right? You're not completely all
kind
Mark
of.
cells.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously true, because
Mm-hmm.
have to have sort of bacteria in your gut
Mm-hmm.
that helps you process things, and is the mitochondria actually part of you, because it has that different RNA sequence. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff like that you're like, well, what makes up me? I get what you're saying, but you sort of go a step further and say that every living organism is connected, kind of thing, and that's where I find it interesting, because. Um, I don't, yeah, I don't know.
I
It's kind of, yeah.
I actually remove or no, I shouldn't say I remove. Humans have removed themselves from that network, and we started also kind of destroying the network in and of itself. But when we were existing within it as a community, as part of it, uh, it was all linked together as one system. We've just,
Well,
as a species, we've set ourselves apart. We've set
yeah,
up some
but when you,
animals, and I mean, when we took the tools that the natural processes had, we took those tools and we turned them and we used them to our advantage to domesticate plants and animals, and we took those things out of this cycle too, and we replaced miles of acres and acres of land with this homogeneous man-made ecology that's not honed by eons of evolutionary process, you know?
but the way you sort of talk about it is like that we share sort of a neural network with the rest of the biological, the biosphere kind of thing.
Well,
And
parts of it are shared by neural networks. That's mostly plants and fungi, though.
yeah,
We're
mycelium.
animals are sort of separate from that. We exist kind of,
Mm,
but like we're more like a free living organism within the biome. We have our own individual neural networks. We're not connected or locked into the neural network. At least humans aren't. There are some animals that are aquatic and very basal that sort of connect into the network, and there's marine fungus that's under the seafloor as well. Like
okay.
yeah, so humans we're more like a free living organism within the system, but with the system and the atmosphere itself, as well as the seas and things like that, because it's just a variation of the density of what our atmosphere is made up of. If you consider it, I mean
Okay.
that I'm trying to think of a way to word this to make, because it's not mystical or anything. That's not my claim. And yeah,
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you.
I
It's
don't
just
think that humans are connected into the neural network, but I think we are. Animals are driven by things like pheromones and such that are released into the air from other organisms within the biomes, because there's more of a aerobic layer to this too, other than the direct network of neurons into the ground. There's also uh, chemical messages that are going through the air. So it's all interconnected through a variety of chemical receptors, but be they through aerobatic, planktonic, or whether it's directly through the neural network. There's messages being sent all through the system constantly.
so. What messages? Can you give me an example of a message that would be gotten from the system that I would receive?
That you might receive.
Well, or any hominid might
Okay,
receive.
yeah, as being separate from the neural network, you're not going to get neural messages directly from the system. So what you're going to get would be like chemical messages, like when you walk outside and you smell, I don't know, a certain flower in bloom or something, and it makes you have
Okay.
an emotional response or what have you. Like say you smell roses and you had some sort of history with that causes you to respond to that. You are receiving messages from the system in that manner.
But does that mean you're part of that? I mean, I get just like how animals could be part of the system in more an abstract way. We're all a part of the um, um,
Well,
biosphere and
so
the
there
transfer of
are
energy.
signals being put out by the system that are causing biological responses within you that causes you to react or act differently than you would if you hadn't got those chemical signals. So I don't see how you could be separate from
Yeah,
the network in the system.
but you could say the same about sort of artificial stuff like perfume or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was
other
talking about. How
chemicals.
humans have taken ourselves out of that system and
Yeah.
synthesized the whole system.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I get what you're saying that these chemicals are signals,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not entirely convinced they're signals that make humans or any hominid or any animal um, an intrinsic part of a system. I think that we sort of look at the way that energy is distributed around the biosphere. So, the food chain, I mean, I know that's a terrible way to describe it, but the way that, animals eat one another, that eat plants, that sort of,
Ooh, okay. So the signals are not all just chemical. There's other systems. We have senses to pick up more than just chemicals. Chemicals, which would stimulate our taste and sense of smell, right? But there's other
mm,
things too that will help stimulate us to have a response within the system to help propagate the system. And I want to introduce you to something about the primate eye that you might not understand, or maybe you do understand. Our ancestors, well, you go back far enough, we're looking at insectivores, but you go back to right before, within the time frame that platyrrhines and catarrhines split off, right? These two groups of
mhm.
monkeys that right before that, we were moving towards frugivory, which is eating fruit. So our eyes, our ancestors' eyes, and we inherited this from them, are really sensitive to detecting things in the spectrum of red, things at that lower end of the color spectrum, which is kind of different from what you see with pollinators who see in the ultraviolet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we receive signals from the environment in the color red because we're primates. And while they want to send out ultraviolet, which is going to be like a lot of pinks and blues that'll really stand out to them, to the pollinators to get them to pollinate the flowers, when they want to distribute their seeds, they send out a different color message. They send out red. So fruit that we like, that humans like as primates, tend to be in the red, from yellows to red, and we see red as ripe. So we are driven to eat right red fruit. It speaks to us. We see it. We want to consume it. It causes a neurological response. It's biologic to us as primates who come from frugivore ancestors because our eyes are sensitive to that color spectrum. Now,
Mm.
if we're getting these visual chromatic signals from the environment, from Gaia, to consume the fruit, because why does a tree want, why does a tree or a plant want you to consume the fruit, Mark?
Just spread the seeds, of course. Yeah.
Right, there you
And
go.
fertilize them,
So
presumably.
when they're ready
Mm.
for pollinating, they send
Mm.
signals in ultraviolet. When they're ready for distributing their seeds, they send the signal in, well, not in infrared, but at the red spectrum, to attract creatures like primates to propagate the seeds and spread them through the forest. So we're getting visual signals, visual cues from Gaia to engage with the system. We are an integral part of the system. We are just free living within the system.
Yeah, but I don't think that that means that we are an intrinsic part of the system. I think that we just evolved, and the plants evolved,
We
and
all
whatever
evolved.
was successful. Yeah, we all evolved sort of simultaneously, and whatever was
Hmm.
successful propagated the most
Right.
plants. I don't think it means that we're in sort of part of a system in more than an abstract sense. I
So
mean, I get that everything's part of a biosphere kind of thing, but I don't think there's any more connection there, than um, being attracted to perfume in a social situation, like social cues, which
right,
we
and
know
that's
social cues are abstract.
and I agree about the perfumes. I think that's a synthesized version of what happens in nature, right? I think that when you look
Um,
at it, a when you take perfumes, taking whether they're depending on what they're based on, whether it's flower based, they're musk
hmm,
based, or even fruit based perfumes, you're taking uh, natural pheromones and scents that you'd have in the wild and synthesizing them for
hmm,
triggering a neural response in humans when they smell them. So your neural network is triggered by these chemical and visual and audible cues in your environment. So your body does naturally respond to messages that we're getting from this system. And I mean, we can, we've separated ourselves quite a bit from it, but we can still have responses that sometimes we don't even understand what we're sensing. And
yeah,
I'm
no, I get that. It's just I'm not sure why I would refer to that system as one sort of thing, one object, one entity, rather than its disparate parts that work together in synergy.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Like you are Mark, even though there's so many different organisms that make up the system that is you, that helps all your biological processes, and there are free living, independent organisms within your body that also operate just like we operate within Gaia as independent neurological systems. Where
Mm.
we have our own independent neural networks. There's organisms within you that have their own sensory and independent networks, but they're still controlled by chemical signals within your body, right?
well, then you're sort of getting into what makes identity, because
Hmm.
if you have a tapeworm, would you consider that you?
Well, it would be actually a parasite living within you, though. It would be a foreign body.
Sure.
Whereas, yeah, when does it count as a? That's exactly right, and we can think of ourselves as like the tapeworm of this system that we live in because, yeah, we're pretty detrimental to it. We wipe out vast stretches of this superorganism that we're part of. So we are a little bit parasitic, or we've become a little bit parasitic within the organism that we live in. I think of it like a lichen, I guess. Lichens are made up of fungus and
Fungus
plants
and
and
yeah.
and bacteria, and then there's little microorganisms that live in there too. Everything all up to mites sized that
Mm.
all live in are part of that system and keep it going.
I just feel that sort of, I mean, I understand that there is that natural system at play and we're a part of it and everything's a part of it. I get that. It just feels like an anthropomorphization, just to sort of say that's Gaia and it's this sort of being in it of itself. It's very, very strange to me because um, when I think of myself, I might not think of the bacteria in my stomach as part of me, and I might not think of um, certain things as me. They're part of my system. I get what you're saying, but
So
I don't know. That's a weird question. That's an odd.
organisms like animals in this system, our main duty, what the system keeps us around for, and why it supports us and produces fruit for us to eat and whatnot, is because we are processors. We are processors of energy. So the organisms use the energy from the soil to grow and propagate, and then they create
Mhm.
their fruit in their waste matter that they leave behind, and animals come along and we consume that waste matter and we process the nutrients out of it, and we defecate in the forest, right? Not just humans, but all the organisms, and
Yeah,
provide,
yeah,
put those nutrients back into the environment. So we are a processor. That's all. I mean, we are pretty advanced processors, but that's as far as Gaia is concerned. That's what we have to offer, or what we had to offer back when we were part of the system, when we worked within it. We don't work within it anymore, but that was the original plan.
yeah. So I don't think that there's a plan in place. I don't think the plan was for us to be anything. I think that it just turned out like that. I think that um,
I was using
plant.
plan loosely. I wasn't saying there's actually a mind
Okay,
behind
okay,
all this. Yeah, I don't think that
yeah,
there's a mind or a plan or a goal or anything. It's just to survive. It's a surviving, evolving system.
yeah, yeah. No, I get what you're saying now.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. So, but I don't think there's even, you know, um, I don't think the system really intended to include anything. I think that that's just what happens when evolution occurs.
Right. Well, it's
Is
not
there
an
any?
intention. Yeah, it's pressures. It's ecological pressures. The system is
Right.
self-correcting and growing and expanding ever since for like 4.2 billion years, right? It's
Yeah.
been this environmental system has been growing, expanding, and changing.
And I mean, I don't think there's anything that necessarily says that we've got to eat fruit and process them. I think it's just that's how the plants have adapted to us doing our thing.
Hmm.
Basically, I think that that's just the end result. I still don't see how it makes us part of a singular organism being of some sort. I think that um, we're sort of part of a system of beings, of things.
Well, I mean, then you have to define what you mean by an organism in that situation. What is an organism? What is
Right.
a superorganism? That's where we run into problems. But you're talking about identity and self, and
Hmm.
the system doesn't care about your identity. If we lived in a natural state, is what I want to emphasize here. If we lived in a natural state, your job within the system would be to eat other organisms and crap out the waste wherever and spread that around. That would be your job to redistribute nutrients into the system and to distribute seeds and such into the system, and potentially carry like burrs and stuff getting on your clothes, carry seeds that way as well
Yeah,
as
yeah.
digesting them. That would be your part of the greater organism, right? You would just be like the organisms in your stomach that break down cellulose or what have you. You
Mm,
know, they
mm.
live freely. They're not part of you. They're
Yeah.
not mark cells, but they are serving the purpose of breaking down the stuff in your system to help your body continue as if you
Mm.
were a superorganism. There's organisms that we look at and that we don't know where to define these as and again within the animal kingdom, like like Portuguese man of war. There's different organisms there in various stages of development that these creatures go through. Things like all working together, and you get to even things like ants and hymenopterans. They don't really have any individual identity because they're all clones. They're all really part of one greater
Right.
organism driving towards a single solitary goal.
But I guess the problem I have is that if you take those bacteria out of my stomach, they're not going to be able to survive. But you can take animals out of their environment and they do
But you
survive.
can't take
Sort
an
of so.
ant out of the environment and have it survive.
Well, sure, sure, but we're not talking about ants specifically. We're talking about everything, every animal's kind of thing. You know, ants
Yeah,
are
it depends. Well, there's no taking them out of the system. I mean, you take them out of the system and put them in an isolated system that's artificially maintained by humans. That's not taking them out of the system. That's putting them in an artificial system. They can survive that. What system? Where are you taking an animal out of the system and then it's surviving?
well, I mean, humans can be taken out of the system. We've
We are
certainly done it.
we've removed ourselves from the system. We've created an
Right,
artificial system that's actually superior to our survival compared to
right.
the natural system. We've transcended the natural system.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like you have a problem with that. That there's a problem there.
Did I have a problem with it?
Yeah, do you have a problem with it?
Oh, with transcending the natural system.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, there's not much to be done about it. I can't. Do I have a problem with
yeah,
it?
yeah.
It's a weird thing to say. It's like, uh,
Well, I'm just curious.
it's like,
I'm
do I
not.
have a problem with an extinction event? Right? Do I have a
Well,
problem with
no,
species
no, no, no,
dying
no.
out and
I'm
diverse?
saying that if you had the choice, like, would you go back to the natural system kind of thing?
Would I?
It's just a
No.
hypothetical.
Honestly, that's such a weird. Because I cannot put my own personal morality on it, right? And
Why not? Why not? I'm asking you what
I
you
know, I know.
prefer.
Well,
That's
my personal opinion would be, um, yeah, I think that would be nice to go back to the natural
okay.
system. And that's for
Yeah,
selfish reasons, though. So I cannot say that that's good because I know my own bias,
that's
right?
okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, I'm more of a I lean towards transhumanism almost. Like I
Yeah.
think that we ought to leave the natural world behind and progress a lot further than we currently are. So I would lean in that. I would lean into it. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Ultimately,
Um,
I would like to see us transcend the natural world and then let it restore itself back to its natural order and exist outside of it. But that's impossible to do. Well, at least because we currently need to reap resources from the natural world,
right,
right?
right, and that was going to be my next question. If you had to take all of the resources out of nature in order to transcend, sort of past it, would you do so?
No, because I think that they're because we're just because just because you win the race doesn't mean you get to turn around and burn that last bridge on the track, right? I still feel like we got a responsibility to the rest of the organisms that we developed through these 4.2 billion years alongside, that we owe it to them
Mm-hmm.
to not torch the track, not torch the bridge, right? Let them
Yeah.
cross that when they need to too. But what we're doing right now is, as a species, is selfish. We're saying, you know what, we got to this point where we're a civilization now. We're gonna take
Yeah.
all the resources, screw the rest of you organisms. We're gonna suck this planet dry and then we're all going to go extinct.
So yeah, and I must admit the extinction thing is certainly a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of lean towards supporting humans over animals because I'm a human. So if um, but yeah, I mean it's a good point, and I don't think that we have the right to take all of the resources and just watch all the animals die. I think that would be our extinction as well.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly isn't a question that we're going to answer in our lifetime. So it's
No,
kind
this is a
of
fun thought plan
yeah,
we're
it's
doing
interesting to
here.
think about.
I actually do
Um,
appreciate you pushing me on these ideas that because I'm still formulating kind of where I stand on all this.
mhm.
It's still developing in my mind how and how the system works is one thing, and then how I feel about how it works is a completely
Mm,
different thing, right? Because I got
yeah,
to take my own biases out of the
I see.
topic.
Yeah, and I mean, I see your points that what constitutes an organism, and if it's just a superorganism on a larger scale. And I'm trying to think of examples where an organism, the superorganism that you're describing, wouldn't be able to do something an organism could, like for instance, split and then create two populations that regrow to the same size. And I thought that was my, but then I remembered there is a what is it, a fluke worm or something? There's a worm that you can cut it in half and it'll just
Yeah,
regrow
and you can do
both
that with
ends.
like
So
with most plants. You can split them if they're depending on where they're.
what was it? It was an amazing regenerator. Was it a plant something worm? God, it's going to drive me crazy. Um,
If Brian Stevens is in the side chat, Brian Stevens knows all this stuff about. Yeah, and then there's systems within the system too. There's some mechanics that you just can't that just don't work if it's not if it shouldn't work if it's not a system if we're not all part of the same system, right? Uh,
yeah.
the things like horizontal gene transfer,
Hmm.
the ability for and viruses in general and kind of their function within our genetics and within the genetics of all life, what viruses have to offer to the system itself is I mean it connect viruses serve as a just one more piece that helps transfer information and material
Mm.
to different areas within the system to do things like give insects plant producing DNA or plant poison and producing genes and things like that.
It was a planarian.
Like
Um, the,
flatworm.
the, yeah, like a flatworm, and there's it's amazing. You can sort of split it either lengthways or crossways, and it will regrow two worms that seem to have the same memories kind of thing of the
Hmm.
original. They're basically almost all stem cells. They're amazing things.
Yeah, well,
Um,
like butterflies, like they break down like a stem cell soup when they're in their cocoons, right? They
mm,
liquefy, but they still retain the memories of the things that happened when they were caterpillars.
mm,
That's they did like
really
a
fascinating.
test on them to demonstrate that. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's not surprising that memories can be stored.
Well, they're trying to identify memory RNA at the moment,
Yeah,
like where is memory stored in individual cells, kind of thing, and how does that um, um, remember certain stimuli that it's been through. Um, it's so interesting that maybe some of our memories are more to do with our entire nervous system than they are to do. When people get an idea of memory, oh, it's stored in the brain, and
yeah,
that's not quite true. We kind of have almost a physical um, memory going through our nervous system that kind of remembers stuff,
yeah.
which
It's
is just
bio
fascinating.
memory is bioelectric, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
uh, obviously there's whatever chemicals we have making it happen. If we could harness those to store information, but the
Yeah.
way that we remember things, it's not like because your brain doesn't just have a storage of what happened, right? It rebuilds
Mm.
experiences that you've had and builds a facsimile of the experiences that you had in the real world. And they're getting to a point where on fMRIs that they can rebuild pictures from your memory.
Yeah.
They can build
But
pictures of your dreams.
well, the problem is that they keep like creationists and these other people. They keep comparing it to a computer, and it's sort of stop doing that. It's not like a computer. It just isn't. The way that the brain and nervous system interacts is kind of nothing like a computer. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some surprising similarities between the two. I wouldn't say otherwise, but trying to use them as analogous to one another is terrible. It doesn't work like that, and it makes me annoyed, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Um, the whole idea of a computer is algorithmic. The brain isn't like that. It uses a fetch, execute, store cycle. Brain doesn't operate like that.
There's no
Stop.
store. There's no store.
Right.
It's
Right.
your brain is basically a mapping system, right? A mapping
Mhm.
system of your environment and the way that things in that you have reacted with things in your environment. You build a repertoire of that, and it goes. And when you dream, your brain's going through scenarios of interacting with the world just to prepare you for for different interactions that you're going to have. It's like your brain isn't storing things. That's why it does that. It goes
Right.
through that cycle to remember what all the things that you've interacted with in the world are
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
yeah, make sure your systems are still firing with the right responses to the right stimulation.
Hmm. Yeah. That's not how a computer works at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is surprising similarities. So what would you classify as your moral system then? Like, where do you think morals come from? What's your idea on that?
Um, so my moral systems, it's just a gradient of. Generally, I think that the human moral system is a gradient of. Like if you talk about being a humanist, for instance, your gradient of humans compared to the rest of the life on the planet, and you for whatever biological reason favor humans. Now, in my opinion, I understand that that's subjective to us as individuals. So our morals are built from biological responses that we have to live as a social species, to do the do the good thing that your brain tells you to do, and don't do the bad thing that your brain tells you to do, because you
Hmm.
are a moral a species. We're a social species, and you weigh how that's going to affect the engagements that you have in the future, right? So I'm very physicalist about emotional stuff, and it's kind of and I think that
Yeah.
annoys a lot of people that actually that annoys people that try to get close to me, honestly, but because I'm very analytical about the way that we interact with people sometimes.
Why would that annoy people that try to get close to you? Why
Um,
would that?
I think people want there to be some deeper spiritual side to it. To me, I don't think that. To me, I don't understand why that's favorable. If I say if I tell somebody that you actually cause a physical chemical response in my
Biological. Yeah.
brain,
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
important you are to me. I think it's so much deeper than saying, hey, there's some mystical force that guides us. No, you are actually physically in my brain. You cause chemical reactions. That's how
Mhm.
freaking wonderful you are, to
Yeah.
someone that you love. Unfortunately, it works
And you
both
cause
ways.
like chemical reactions that then cause a physical reaction, like the heart beating faster, or me sweating, or
Mm-hmm.
a sense of shivering. And I don't see why that's not enough. I don't see why that's trivialized kind of thing. Yeah, I don't understand why that's sort of seen as lesser, as to, well, my spirit and your spirit, that I can't in no way demonstrate to have some kind of relationship
And that
together.
this actually came up in that. I don't know how much that conversation I had with Praise and them that you watched, but that actually came up
Hmm.
was talking about love, and that oh
Yeah.
my ideas of love lub
Lob.
yeah, my ideas of love are somehow less than because they're
Right.
physicalist, you know, where
Yeah.
I think that that's a me following my biology. And I mentioned that, and the guy tried to take it to that to say, "Oh, well, you deny your biology right now." No, I don't. You might deny my biology, but I don't.
Right.
Because you know
Right.
what causes me to be me? It's those neurons that we talked about in the brain on those chemical
Yeah.
responses. That's me. So those chemical responses are telling me to do what I'm doing now and to have this go through this
Right.
change. That's my biology telling me I need to go through this
Mhm.
change. So I don't
Yeah.
deny it. I'm
Yeah.
living it.
Yeah. And then you're under no delusions about what's physically going on. This is
Yeah.
what they don't understand. They're sort of, it's so weird to me to hear that because, I mean, when I was in there with Danny, one guy was sort of saying, "Oh, they're deluded," and it's like, no, they understand. Like their description of reality is perfectly accurate. What are you talking about? It was very very strange. I don't understand. So you're placing the foundations for morality in biology. So your biological
Yeah, I don't think there's
imperatives
anything external.
drives things like that.
I'm definitely a physicalist. I'm not a
But are
dualist at
you a
all.
moral realist? Do you think that morals are secured in reality as sort of a concrete thing, or do you think it's just an abstract social construct?
It's an abstract social construct.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not definitely not a moral realist. I don't think that.
Mm.
I mean, what is the end goal of moral realism?
What do you mean?
What is the benefit of behaving morally? Is the propagation
Well,
of society, right?
the whole idea of a moral realist is they will say there is objective foundations of why you're doing it. So, sort of Dr. Graham Oppy, for instance, who's an atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
They believe in naturalism. They believe that your um, sort of so evolution and biology makes a objective physical foundation for morality kind of thing, and that is what creates morality. So there is a very real sense of something being there that is real and moral. Whereas I would disagree. I would sort of say it is a social construct as well,
Yeah.
or rather, we can sort of make frameworks that are social constructs. But
Yeah, I
um,
can't even wrap my head around what would be the objective perspective on that. That's why I
yeah,
guess that's what I meant was by the end goal is objective from what perspective? For the
well, the
perspective
end,
of the good
yeah,
of who or what?
the end goal is because humans are social creatures. Where just if you think of it as we're wired to be moral because it's inbuilt to our being because we have to be social creatures. We don't have a choice, kind of thing. That would be the steelman argument from them.
So it's
So
a
it's a yeah,
it's anthropocentric then morality.
yes.
How can
So there will
okay wait how can an objective position be
yeah.
anthropocentric?
Well, when you say anthropocentric, I mean central around humans
Right,
because we are humans. We are objectively
but we're
humans.
also mammals. So why can't it extend all mammals?
Well, because we're not like when you look at another mammal, it's a cow or you know a dog. We're
Mm-hmm.
not a cow or a dog, but
Yeah,
we are a mammal and also a human.
yeah,
So when you look at something like kin associated compassion, for instance, which is a sort of term in psychology of valuing those closer to you, we're going to value the moral imperatives of those things which are closer to us.
that's not objective, right? That's some kind of gradient that you're on.
No, no,
And it
it is
used to
objective.
extend. So hold on, and it used to extend to not extend to other races, right? You wouldn't have the same value for someone
Sure,
of a
yeah,
different race racial
Yeah.
group or ethnic group than yourself, in the same way that
Yeah.
you might disregard a chimpanzee now, but you'll
Sure.
still hold a chimpanzee in higher regard than a cow, right? I mean, you still
Hmm.
empathize with the chimpanzee more than the cow, but you'll definitely
Sure.
empathize with the cow more than you will the garter snake, right? So, I
Right.
mean, it's a gradient. So how is that objective? Is it an objective gradient? Maybe.
Well, they kind of argue that morality, as far as humans is concerned, is kind of, you know, inbuilt to us. I look, Brie, I don't take this position.
I know.
I'm just saying what they. Like, I'm trying to steel man them as much as possible, but I think that there is no objective reason to choose something like empathy over aggression, kind of thing,
Yeah.
apart from the fact that it serves um, our aims and our goals well to do that. Basically, you know, it's good for me to do that, but there's no reason in the universe that I have to work with other humans, or you know, it's not hardwired. I can be, you know, take a group of humans off and be aggressive and horrible and do awful things. And, you know, I don't think there's anything that objectively says that that's immoral. Um, I would like there to be, but I don't think there is.
Yeah, and I think that's my biggest beef with philosophy is everything's so anthros I'm gonna trip over my tongue.
I can never see that either.
Anthropocentric.
Anthropomorphized.
Yeah, everything's so
Oh, anthropocentric. Okay, yeah.
yeah. That they don't think about morality as something that's object or if they say objective, they just mean they mean subjective to humans, right? They
Well,
don't,
but so it's hard because you do see sort of proto morality in animals, but we wouldn't call it sort of a morality as such. It certainly is approaching there, especially in sort of the you know, um, closer related apes to us. But I don't think it gets to morality. It's not codified. It's not structured. It's sort of very loose. Sort of, if you're going to call it morality, it'd be very loose form of morality. I don't think it gets there.
so where's the line at then? Is again it's something that seems like it's like on a gradient because maybe
Sure.
did Australopithecines have morality? Did Neanderthals have morality? What about Homo habilis between the
Yeah,
two? And there,
probably.
you know,
I don't know, but it depends if it was sort of codified and written down. When we're talking about morality, we're usually talking about humans, but I completely acknowledge that animals sort of do have um, social coordinated behavior that sort of, you know, leads them towards morality. I'm just not sure it breaches that, it leaps that hurdle to actually make it to a an actual moral system kind of thing. I'm not sure it does.
hmm.
Because if you're talking about sort of, you know, I think one of the examples I gave in my last debate was the white faced capuchins who make the fake alarm calls in order to sneak food kind of thing, which is sort of lying. They're lying about there
Yeah.
being a threat in order to get more food. And if they're caught, they're sort of ostracized from the group kind of thing.
Well, there's the
Um,
boy who cried wolf, right?
right.
Yeah.
So it's seen as sort of immoral behavior within that sort of group. But the reason why they do it is because the bigger, stronger monkeys usually take food from them, kind of thing. They're
Right.
trying to
So
resist. Yeah. So um,
so you can acknowledge that, then why would you say there's
yeah.
objective morality? Because your morality doesn't align with that morality, does it? Of the
Right.
so
Well, I don't say that. I don't say that.
no. Well, I mean, okay. So in this position, what is their steel man that for me? I guess you got to go here in a second, though, don't you?
Yeah. I do. I'm already over when I said I'd go, but this has been really cool.
Yeah.
Um, so Steelman that. So um, it's still hardwired into them not to lie because it's detrimental to the survival of them objectively. Um, so you have to have these senses of morality in order um, to operate as a social animal. and that operation as a social animal is to them an objective standard. It is something that you're hardwired to do. So I think that would be the sort of argument. But I must admit, I'm not making it well because I don't, you know, I'm not the one that's going to be arguing this. In
Yeah.
fact, Snake mentioned he believed in absolute morality, and I was like, well, I've got to debate you on that because absolute morality is such a strong position. It basically says there are moral precepts that hold true under any circumstance.
Universal, right? Yeah.
Well, it's even more than universal. Not only is it universal where it applies across cultures, because that's universalism across cultures and countries and beliefs and religions. Universalism says that, hey, it holds true everywhere. Um, Absolutism says it holds true no matter what the situation, right? So if lying is wrong, there is no situation where telling a lie is moral. And I think that that position is such a sort of out there one. um it's weird. I don't see that. Like, there's always a reason why, if Nazis came to your door and you were hiding Jewish people, and
Mm-hmm.
you knew that the Nazis would kill your family and the Jewish family, and
Mm-hmm.
would it be moral to lie? And I would say absolutely yes.
Right.
Like, there is no, as far as I know, and I'm happy to be convinced otherwise, but as far as I know, there is no action that under a certain set of specific circumstances it would be immoral instead of moral. Like, people will go, oh, well, murder is always immoral. It's like, well, what if you're suffering under a brutal dictatorship and the only way out is to rise up and fight? Technically, because murder's a legal term, you're murdering the government, the guards that have been placed there by the government. But is that immoral? I would say no, because you're trying to free people from a brutal dictatorship that's killing people or whatever. Under certain circumstances, I think anything can be moral. That's why trolley problems and stuff exist. That's why we have these moral conundrums where it's like, would you kill these four people or this one person? What if the one person was your daughter? What if the four people were all, you know, Adolf Hitler or something? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's
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 moral
always
conundrums, right?
right. There's always situations where you can say, hey, would this be moral to
And
do?
there can be moral paradoxes too, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And so it's incredibly complicated. So I find the idea of saying, "Hey, absolute morality. This specific thing is always going to be immoral." I've never heard a decent defense for it ever, because you can always create hypotheticals that would then be immoral.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
So
don't understand that
then
position.
people, when I start identifying myself as this is from this Guyanist position, a lot of people think it's
Yeah.
replaced my atheism. It really hasn't. I'm still an atheist.
No, I get that.
It has replaced my humanism though.
So I'm a pretty fervent, I guess, humanist. I
Hmm.
really believe that I will. So let's put this to a question. If you had a situation where you could save a human or a cat, which would you save?
Yeah, human, right?
Why?
I just accept that it's graded. I don't think there's real, and that there's enough um, defining characteristic. Because if I do call myself a humanist, I'm going to be like a neo-humanist because I'm going to just extend it to anything that's a hominoid, which is going to include all the apes, right?
Right.
So, and my humanism would extend to that, and then it'd be graded
Sure.
out from there. Of course, I do, and don't get me wrong, I do value Homo sapiens over another ape. So I understand that it's graded, but it's graded all the way down to a personal level. I value my son over my neighbor's son.
Yeah, and that's everybody does
Yeah,
that, no matter what they're.
it's
Yeah.
gradiated.
Yeah.
Then you can extend to your community, to your culture, uh, to your nation. Depending on your situation.
Mm,
But yeah, and for a lot of people, it extends to race too, which is unfortunate. But I mean, that's
yeah.
just the long and short of it with that. But it's graded down from an individual level to a being an organism on Earth. How
Mm.
much I value.
Well, I mean, I still do that, but I've got to admit I value humans way higher because I am human, and I acknowledge that's simply a subjective perception.
Hmm.
If I was a Neanderthal, I'd probably, sort of value Neanderthal a lot higher, or if I was a cat, I would value cat much higher. I think it is completely subjective, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with saying, hey, humans matter way more than animals. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with that.
And there's
I
been
think,
situations where there's people I like my dog more than I value above. I've had dogs that I value above certain people, and I feel guilty about that. But
yeah,
that just proves that it's not objective, that it can transcend that.
I get that. I do get that.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of the animal that you have a bond with can have a higher importance than some humans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't refute that, but the reason why I'd care about that dog isn't because of the dog itself. It's because of the value that humans
You
place
have
upon
that
it. So
same chemical response that we were talking about earlier. This has been a freaking amazing conversation, Mark. I gotta tell you.
yeah, I'm really stretching it. I'm gonna try and
I don't want to get you in
I really
trouble.
like. No, she's fine. She'll tell me if she really wants to go. Absolutely, but I guess,
Maya
and I don't
dolphins
want
are rapists. What are you talking about?
right. Dolphins are rapists. They actually are. It's pretty crazy, but
Or
yeah, and some people prefer dogs to humans. I don't know. I don't really. I like cats, but I think that I place a real emphasis on humans simply for the fact that I am one. I don't pretend that, oh, we're this special, people get all hung up on we're this special organism. No, our
mm-hmm.
brains are bigger and we can talk good. And we can sweat through pores. That's about our defining characteristics. We're actually pretty weak and pretty emotional and pretty, you know, all over the place at times. So I
Right.
think but it's simply for the sheer fact that I am a human that I prioritize humans. I don't sort of claim anything special about it. Um,
I'm with you. I
yeah,
understand that I'm biologically driven to value humans.
yeah. Well, that's true, but there isn't anything forcing you to. That it still is a subjective thing. If you don't want to value humans, you don't have to. It's not
I
as
don't
as
know,
you
but
know.
I
I'd
think that's
refute.
kind of can you choose your values though?
Can you choose your values? We appear to be able to do so. I appear to be able to say that person is an other. It is excluded from my kin identity, and therefore I can do whatever I want to them. It appears for us to be able to do that because it's been done in the
Are you
past.
choosing it, or are you conditioned to? I mean, is it a real choice that you're making, or is it environmental
Yeah,
pressures that are driving you towards where you're going?
this is sort of stochastic thought. Like, do you choose your beliefs, or do you are convinced of your beliefs, which is another interesting question. um, I think that perhaps people can convince themselves that somebody is an other and outside of their kin relationship. um, that's a good question, though. Can you decide that somebody is part of your kin or not, or do you need to be convinced?
Yeah, and hold on, just Maya. Yes, I'm pretty sure humans probably rape more than dolphins do, and the dolphins probably don't realize that you're not consenting when they rape you. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, let's wrap this up here, Mark. What do you got coming up?
Nothing much. I've got I was supposed to go on and do a thing with these Twitch guys, but I haven't heard back from them, so that's not underway, I would imagine. Um, the on I believe it is Friday morning. No, Thursday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Friday morning. Friday morning. I've got an interview with Michael Granado, who is a real awesome guy, actually, as a philosopher. That should be a wonderful conversation. I really enjoy
When's
talking to
that?
him.
Thursday evening.
Thursday morning, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's
Well,
the
I'll
only
be off
time I
work,
can
so I'll,
rest.
I'll probably be there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yes. No, Friday morning. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
Friday morning. Okay, the 25th.
So, yeah, yeah, 25th.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. What is the topic? You just talking?
Just interviewing him, his background, his life, his where he stands on certain things, how he got onto. I'm going to give him the math pig treatment that math
Yeah.
pig gave me.
That's
Essentially,
pretty cool.
essentially, we're all copying math pig at the end of the day. So, um, and I'm sure he's not in the chat to hear that anymore. So, good thing this isn't recorded or anything.
So, yeah. Well, I'm glad you came by. I have, I don't know if you saw this in the
Hmm.
side chat that I was plugging it and somebody wants to drop the link, please do so. I have launched a new channel. It's just a side project, so it's not, it's going to have more scripted stuff, but it's largely going to be a channel about animals. So far, there's uh,
Lions versus Tigers was the
yes,
first one. I started watching it, and then I was sort of bugged for this, which I'm happy you did. I've had a great time.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's sort of let's evaluate the face off. It was good.
yeah. So yeah, hopefully we will be able to have a lot of fun. That the other show that I'm doing on that channel is called Bree's Bestiaries, where we look at the history and art and folklore of different animals and kind of break it down. It's
Oh, cool.
those will be I'm gonna do them live. I'm gonna do all this stuff live, but that's probably gonna be a shorter segment. I don't know. There's no schedule for that channel yet. I just launched it today, and I'm not rushing on it. I still got my regular HiveScience content that I'm gonna be working on. Robbie keeps telling me to start a channel where I do engagements and stuff, and I want that to be this channel. So
Okay.
I'm going to start trying to do one show in the evening a week where I do something live. Either it's going to be live, or I'm going to uh, like mirror something like what you do, where I engaged and went someplace and played with somebody. So that's expect to see that stuff on Life in the Hive. But yes, if you want to subscribe to, it's funny because we've been talking about it too. The Battle for Gaia, which is the name of my channel, my new channel. But yeah, go over there and subscribe to that. I appreciate it. I just launched this afternoon. I already got like 15 subscribers, so I'm stoked to see that people are enjoying it. I will be with on this channel with Michael Granado on Friday.
Oh, he's everywhere. He's everywhere.
Yes, I will be there. We will be Friday evening. We're talking about domestication. So,
Hmm.
and how that kind of played out for humanity. So, we're moving ourselves from the system, indeed, and
Hmm.
how that kind of got underway. It's really a symbiosis, right? But we'll discuss that at a deeper level with Michael
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Friday. But yeah, you got an outro line that you say, Mark?
Oh, just be kind to yourself and each other.
Love it. Yep, and please remember to be kind and take care. And you have yourself a great night, everybody.